Welcome to the Town Board meeting Thursday, May 19th. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Still using this? Emergency exits are to my right, behind the town attorney, and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
Councilman Mike Delango.
Here.
Councilman Gutierrez.
Here.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger.
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Here.
Supervisor Perotti.
Here. Public comment? Was there a list to sign up?
And
You need to, did you have it over there for them to sign up?
no.
Yeah, you can put it over there, Nancy, so they can sign your name. There's a pen here. And then you can, if anyone else wants to speak.
As well, we have this minute. I should mention that Channel 22 has been out for 2 days and a complaint has been filed and they're working on repairing it. Yeah.
All right. Please state your name and where you live.
My name's Carol Lee, and I live at 3529 Route 22, adjacent to where the Woods Monte project was proposed and defeated, supposedly. That's also the residence of Graham Spearman, who was at the meeting on was it March 17th, when there was a vote 4-1 defeating the proposal. And I received an email yesterday from Nina Peak saying that this had reared its ugly head again. And I'm just here to say we're adamantly against it and confused as to why it's even being considered if it was voted down. That's it.
Is there any other public comment? Did you want to speak?
Yes.
At the podium, please. State your name.
My name is Susan Bassalone. We're representing Tally Ho Senior Park. Since the last meeting, I have pondered and pondered why Amenia, why a town board would go ahead and address this again. And I know he has rights, Mr. Balfamonte, and I'm sure he's a very nice man. But why would we want to take this beautiful place that we have and have an industrial zoning put in? Because that's what's going to happen. That will happen if nobody fights for this. We're going to lose the beauty of this area. We're going to lose a way of living that we have. And I just found something out the other night. I was totally shocked. My friends will be shocked too. I have an only child, a spoiled only child. She's in her 40s. She will be 50 soon. And her husband and her travel to New York City every day. They have a home in Westchester County. They love it, no children, and fine. She says, Mom, do you think Daddy and you will leave your manufactured home to us? I almost died because when we went to a manufactured home, my daughter was, oh my God, I don't even want to go there anymore. I said, yeah, why, Dana? She says, because it's a way of living that I see that you and Daddy are so happy, and the other people surrounding you, and the markets that you have. And I was shocked when she said this to me. 22 is beautiful. And I said, well, I wouldn't go that far. There's nothing much there that's beautiful, but we could have some commercial industries there. That would be wonderful. Maybe a strip mall one day. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. There are things that Amenia needs. I have a lot of wants, but I'm a person that figures, well, if you can't have it, you can't have it. But there are certain things that I think we can have here. One thing I know we cannot have We cannot have our zoning go to industrial, because not only we will be in a mess with the aquifer and everything else, then people are going to start all along the way. My favorite place that I love to go eat at is the Pond. We eat there quite wonderful all the time. The people are wonderful. They make you feel fantastic when you go there. You don't have this in New York City. I don't care what you pay. The restaurant is phenomenal. You don't have this. I could just see it all with maybe a pit someplace, an industrial park some other place, everybody buying our property because it's so damn cheap. This is not, we really don't live in a cheap area. I hate to tell you, but the people around here have an awful lot of money. And we don't think we live in a cheap place. We live in a wonderful place. And up and down 22 will be nothing but goddamn gas stations and Dunkin' Donuts and everything else that doesn't look right here. I say, please, everybody, get out there and fight this. Mr. Belfamonte, you have money, a lot of money. Go to another town. Go some other place. In 1970 in Dover, people fought. They fought so that, you know, there was New York, it was Jersey, and Westchester County wanted to throw dumping in behind 10 Mile River. I saw some paperwork on that. I didn't do the whole thing research. I wasn't able to get it. They fought as a town in Dover. We as Amenia, we can fight. There's no reason why we can't, and Mr. Belfamonte could keep coming back and forth. But I want you to know, if he has his money, he has a nice amount, I'm sure. Let him go some other place with the money. Let him go there. Let him put what he has to put. We cannot ruin our aquifer. That's number one. We cannot ruin 22. We cannot ruin our way of living, our life that we have here. It's beautiful. It's a little bit of heaven. I'll take this any day over New York City downtown, over Westchester County and all. The people are good people. Everything is good here. Your constituents, I'll say it again, we do not want it. And I'm hoping that the town board will again vote it down. I know he probably has a plant that's going to be phenomenal. And then
There
yes.
is no application before
Well,
us
I'm
right
sure
now.
it's going to go there. We just want you to know.
We just received this, so with
But
no
I'm sure it will,
explanation.
Mrs. Parati, it will go there. We don't want it, and we will fight for it. There's a way of fighting. I'm not afraid of fighting. We'll do it. We'll do it as a community. We want to keep this pristine the way it is. We don't want it, and then all the other towns are going to follow it too. It's a precedent that you're going to start. There's money to be made. Don't do it on the backs of the people, please. And that's all I have to say.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, supervisors report. Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response and Town of Amenia Supervisor Victoria Perotti invite you to participate in a citizens preparedness training Tuesday, May 24, 2016. 6:30 p.m. doors open, 7 p.m. program begins at the Amenia Town Hall. You will be able to acquire the tools and resources to better prepare for any type of disaster, learn how to respond accordingly in a disaster, and recover as quickly as possible to pre-disaster conditions. Each family who attends will receive a free Citizen Preparedness Corps Response Starter Kit. The event is free and open to the public. The ambulance service committees in the town are still working on RFP details and hope to send out an RFP next month. Bid specs are available in the town clerk's office for the CDBG sidewalk project and are due back by June 9th. Bids will be awarded at the June 16th meeting, town board meeting. The heating system and electrical bids are due at the town hall until 10 a.m. on May 23rd. Then will be publicly opened and read aloud. Contracts will be awarded at the June 6, 2016 Town Board Workshop meeting. Town clerk report.
I just wanted to say that Dawn Marie has sent out the second notices of the unpaid taxes. They have been mailed for the final collection dated at the local level, May 31st, 2016.
And you have the authorization to pay claims. Vicki?
I'll make a motion that the town board authorize the payment of the vouchers for May 19th, 2016, the general fund in the total amount of $41,744.69. The highway fund, $22,397.14. Amenia lighting, $1,799.56. Wasaic lighting, $612.56. Amenia water, $6,274.27, for a grand total for May of $72,828.22.
Is there a second?
Second. Do you?
Discussion?
Discussion?
Yeah, there was a voucher that wasn't signed by the board, all board, enough signatures on it.
There isn't any amount of signatures that have to be on the vouchers according to the Comptroller's office.
Okay, great.
No, that's yours, and we can sign it.
You call the roll, please.
Roll call. Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
No.
That was it.
No.
No. Councilman DeLango?
Abstain.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Okay, I have a Highway Department report from Stan Whitehead. We took sidewalks out at 3 locations on Route 22 so Carl Renia could pour new ones. We removed sidewalk at the town hall and applied grass seed. We have been working on Butts Hollow in preparation for applying blacktop. And the kitchen committee report. The committee will continue to work on the specifics of the policy and use guidelines. Alan requested we looked into the fee schedule for discussion at the next meeting. The septic system, Wayne received the application submission letter from the county. We'll be working on completing the request, including a $330 fee. Linda and Alan informed the committee that the Amenia Lions Club is excited to help this project get started. In so doing, the Lions Club agreed to pay for the septic work to be completed. The committee voted to have Salvary's Septic begin the work in conjunction with the Board of Health and John Kalin. Thank you to the Amenia Lions Club to jumpstart this project. They are truly a community-driven group. Wayne and Linda will work with the Board of Health, John Kalin, and Salvary's Septic, and the Amenia Lions to complete the first step. Charlene Pollinger and Mike Haggerty attended a meeting with Hudson River Housing to learn of possible grant opportunities for the kitchen. The committee would like to give a thank you to Mike Haggerty for writing a great press release. This is a big step in letting everyone know of this commitment. The press release was sent to the Millerton News, the Poughkeepsie Journal, and Millbrook Independent. Wayne also stated that he was contacted by the Millerton News for an article to be run about the community kitchen. Wayne also asked that to review the agreement for discussion next meeting, and that John Cogan is continuing to clean out the area. Grant report?
I sent the email about the resolutions that I was hoping the town may consider. There's a couple of exciting grant opportunities that I think I mentioned at the last workshop that I would be attending. The seminar that Dutchess County put on for the municipal shared services and municipal consolidation and shared services grant and the tax relief grant program, both of which sound like they're really good opportunities. One is a $1 million give back really from Dutchess County to the towns in a one-time competition for grants, major capital projects that towns are doing that are ready to go, and that if you get a grant, it would really help you with your financing. You wouldn't necessarily have to borrow as much, or you would possibly reduce the tax impact of borrowing. So I think it's a good project. I think since you are considering a major investment with the boilers, and they even mentioned at this workshop, one town is, heat is a major priority. Getting heat to, a public facility would be, a project that would most likely gain a lot of attention. So I did prepare the resolution thinking you may want to jump on this. It's a relatively straightforward application. You have to answer a few questions, develop a narrative, but you are moving ahead, it seems like, with the project, and it's going to be costly. I think you've already authorized borrowing to do it, so that shows it's ready to go, and so anyway, that was one. And the other idea was maybe putting in for the kitchen for $90,000 for the remainder of funding that would be needed to get the renovations going. And I don't think it's too far of a stretch to think that we could apply under the Shared Services Grant Program, because it's really creating a new regional service. I even mentioned it at the meeting to Katie Palmer-House, who happened to be there, and she said, towns Dover would most likely be interested, and maybe we could even approach them about doing a financial commitment, which I thought was interesting, just for her to present that. I thanked her for that. I think it does show that it would be a regional resource, having an emergency center in the center of the town. And I thought, since they are saying a regional delivery of service, that's how we could frame it, as a emergency shelter. They funded other things that did not involve consolidations or eliminations of government. This year the priority is to eliminate a layer of government, but I don't think that really has ever happened in the 3 years that they've had the program. One of the earlier grants was actually that pedestrian bridge over the Fallkill Creek in Poughkeepsie. So that gives you an idea that, that's a project that is not really intermunicipal, but a lot of different people do use it. It's a Dutchess County project, really, that does help more than one town. So.
Will they fund feasibility studies to theoretically reduce our number of
Well, yeah, that would be a priority. That's what they've done. They'd like doing that, doing studies to see if there are efficiencies in town.
We had talked about that at our ambulance district meetings, that there would be an opportunity potentially, not immediately, but if we could do a feasibility study to see how we can use our fire district resources in the most effective way possible. And if that means collapsing or consolidating or creating a substation or creating even a nonprofit organization to help, provide the best bang for our buck for our emergency services and to be the most efficient we can. I think that would be
creating
very helpful.
One fire district.
We had the 171% increase for Wassaic residents this year. That was very hard on residents of Wassaic to bear that. And I think a study that would give us greater understanding of where we can maximize our tax dollars and still retain the best services that we have enjoyed, given all our volunteers and such, whether or not that would be an appropriate thing that would outline the cost savings, potential avenues to explore, and yet, and lay it out in front of the taxpayers. Here's what could be done. Or if we wanted to go outside of Amenia, and if we wanted to incorporate Northeast or Pine Plains or other towns that are also struggling under the high cost of providing a full-time ambulance service here in just Amenia. We need to look out wider and see how we can solve this problem regionally, rather than, we know already how expensive it is just for Wassaic to do that. The bigger and wider we spread the cost of that ambulance service, it's got to provide some savings for us. And if it means eliminating a district or creating a substation or some kind of other mechanism, I think we have to explore those ideas. We can't afford to do it the way we have in the past.
Well, it's up to you. That is definitely an eligible project. Not really, I guess we could do like a request for qualifications type of process to get
We have
consultants.
A proposal from Brad Pinsky, who has been the lawyer for the Amenia Fire District, and he had made a cost proposal and a suggestion that he was capable of providing the kind of analysis, given his 20-some years of working specifically with fire districts. I don't know what the rest of the town board would feel about that, or how the rest of the town would feel about that, but I think more information is better than less.
I don't know if we can make 2 applications either, I can look into that, but it does sound like a good, probably would make more sense to do something like that, but...
I'll forward the email from
so-
Brad Pinsky suggesting that a feasibility study be done for Amenia and maybe for the greater part, not that we could get
I
it done
think
for
that
this
would-
year,
I
but
think
it could
that
be done
was-
in the future.
I think that was for a regional ambulance services, not for removing an ambulance district.
But I think it gives you the idea that we need more hard facts and numbers and studies to tell us where the best savings could be had.
The only thing is, it is due June 17th too, but I
So
mean,
it could be in the future. I think at this point, the board needs to grapple
Vicki, I
with,
mean, this brings up this whole thing with this grant thing. We got a grant that's due June 17th. You have a great idea. We're putting it together to get it in by June 17th. I always said from day one, our grants, we should have projects in mind and have a plan of where we want to go. And then we go and look for the grants.
there's one due July 1st that I
Yeah.
really had
I mean,
my
it's
mind on,
almost like what
not
I'm
the June
seeing that's
17th.
going on with the grants, we're kind of backwards, where we go and we find out, oh, there's $200,000 available, let's make a
That's not the way
project.
to do it. That's
No.
not the way to do
Well,
it.
that's not the way it's been doing. What is happening is that we get notification from the county that we're doing a grant, this is how much we're offering, and there's a deadline. It isn't like we're going and looking for the grant is coming to us. And that's what we're looking at, is ways we can possibly use this money.
Well, what I think a good idea would be is, I think us as a board, we should have like a wish list. What do we need? What do we want?
Well, we need a kitchen.
And then we have the plan. I think we need an ambulance service more than we need a kitchen right now. But, the whole thing that I'm getting at is we should go at it in a systematic approach. What projects does the town need right now? What projects are we going to need in the future? Then we have that list, what grants fit into those projects that we need. And it's just a thought that I had.
Well, I think the first thing is to decide what our priorities are and
I
then
agree.
find the resources that you can find to help you make those things happen. And one of the priorities that I think facing Wassaic residents, if not the entire town of Amenia, is how to solve ultimately, get the very, very best plan in place. And I think there's one due July 1st that would be an appropriate opportunity for us rather than the June 17th. If you have something packaged and ready to go, great, but I think if the town
What's July
board
1st?
as a whole feels that's the right direction. I'm
Vicki, the
trying to recall it. I sent it on to Damien and suggested that it might be something we look at.
the
but I can
municipal
find it.
consolidation grant,
That's-
that's the one that's due July
One.
1.
the 17th is that one. The special $1 million grant is due July 1st.
Okay.
Is the tax relief.
Michael, if you could
So
help us.
municipal consolidation, I mean, that would combine, combining the fire districts
To study it.
would be good for that one.
These are relatively
Because that-
straightforward
that
applications.
would be a
These were just
consolidation.
suggestions, so I mean, you are meeting again. If you wanted to, entertain another one, we could. There is a pretty straightforward application. And I think we do have a plan in general with the Hamlet plan and the consolidated, the comprehensive plan, at least that I've been using as a guide for, in coming to the meetings, knowing what your basic needs are and what you're trying to do. But I do welcome that, suggestions all the time. I just think that this, going to the workshop, I was excited. The county is trying to simplify the process a little bit. It's all done online. So, you just have to answer the questions and do a good job writing up the budget and the narratives and stuff. But I think they want to fund the town. There wasn't that many towns there at the meeting.
But for this, the property tax relief grant, one of the things they mentioned was heat.
And
She
we
did. I
and
thought
we
she was
cer-
talking about Amenia when she mentioned that, because I don't know if there's others, but
Could be.
because she was here recently, and you probably told her about the boilers. But I'm talking about Ann Saylor, who runs this program for Dutchess County, and she runs the Community Development Block Grant Program. But they just seem to make that point. It's a project you're already doing, it's already financing, and if you're going to get some money, it would really help you with your financing. It may even reduce the property tax burden in the first year that you are financing.
The energy savings.
Yeah, it would, so we have to show the savings, which you did. Thank you for, I did see that spreadsheet you gave me to qualify the town. I mean, the town has been pretty fiscally responsible with no long-term debt and with, staying under the tax cap. This is probably the first significant borrowing, and a big grant from the county may help you because it's something you're doing and it is heat. So they did see, I did think that that was a good match. That's the one due July 1st. I'm not sure if you can, I think you can only do one application.
Can you help us verify that we can't do multiple applications for the consolidated services?
Yes, I'll look in, I can get that.
I tried to figure it out on the website and I couldn't when I was looking, but if we could get 2 in for that, that would be.
So what I found, it says, it's called the Taxpayer Stabilization Grant Initiative. It's an addendum to the 2016 Municipal Consolidation and Shared Services Grant. Application submitted by noon on July 1st. And it's on the Dutchess County Planning and Development's website. It's an addendum, so it's another, hopefully a separate grant application.
Yes,
It is.
yeah, it is. It's
They're
a,
2 separate ones, yeah,
yeah, they added more money.
with 2 different dates.
available.
Like the
Right.
tax stabilization, they changed the name, it's the tax relief grant now.
Right.
It's due July 1st, and the other one is June 17th. But I'll find out if you can do multiple. I don't recall them saying that at the meeting.
Okay, what
I'll
res-
forward that to you.
You probably could, because they said nonprofits can apply, but they would just have to get a town board to give a resolution.
So
say-
before we do the kitchen one, do you want to wait and see if we can do 2?
Sure, you have
That's
time,
the
because it's
one-
not, it's due June, your
That's the
meeting.
shared service one. Yeah, we have a meeting on June 2nd.
All right.
Okay.
What
There's
would-
going to be a lot of grants
What
too.
would the
with-
resolution number be for
oh,
this one? I'm sorry,
26.
26. Resolution authorizing a grant application to the Dutchess County Property Tax Relief Grant Program Project Amenia Town Hall Boiler Replacement Endeavor. Whereas the town of Amenia is seeking a $200,000 grant from the Dutchess County Property Tax Relief Program, a one-time $1 million grant opportunity designed to assist projects that are ready to go, that are likely to have a positive impact on the local property tax burden. Whereas the grant is needed in order to assist the town of Amenia with the expected cost of a new boiler system that must be completed this year at Town Hall. Whereas the existing boiler system at Town Hall is at the end of its useful life, it must be replaced this year, and grant from the Dutchess County Property Tax Relief Grant would greatly assist Amenia taxpayers because the town has already been authorized to borrow up to approximately $1.1 million to replace the existing boilers with a new system along with other improvements to the heating system's internal system infrastructure and providing for a generator at Town Hall. Whereas the town of Amenia has been developing plans to complete the boiler replacement this year while seeking grants to minimize the tax impacts of the proposed project financing in year 1 and for several years after the project is complete. The grant application must be filed by July 1. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Amenia hereby authorizes the preparation of a grant application to Dutchess County Property Tax Relief Grant in the amount of $200,000. Can I make that motion?
Second it?
Councilman DeLango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Is there any other committee report? Are you finished, Mike?
Unless you just wanted, we had that Hudson River Housing meeting, which was very positive and interesting. It was a conversation, a community conversation with the subject was young people and how they feel about this area, and they were very positive. There's a lot of, I was quite impressed with the young people. They're doing their own businesses now. Anyway, Hudson River Housing would like to partner with Amenia if we do want to consider a Main Street grant down the road. And I thought that was nice.
Yeah, they
because
would administer it.
if we wrote the grant, if I wrote the grant, if the town did the grant, they would actually do the management of the grant as far as, working with the landowners. I think it would be worthwhile to apply again. The CFA is coming up again in July, and there probably are some buildings in downtown that may be interested in this program, getting 75% of potential funding for renovation of a building, and maybe even more streetscape work. You said Fountain Square needed some attention, so I think...
Do you think we should do a letter of interest to the business owners to see if there's any interest in
definitely.
it first?
I think that would be a good savings.
Yes, we got a good response the first time. A lot of people were interested, and then when they found out some of the details, they backed off, but I still
But
think
they've
it's worth...
changed the grant. I know one of the reasons some of the people backed off because you had to file a property management form with the county saying that you had to keep whatever improvements were made, that you had to keep up the property for 5 years. And they've made some, last time I spoke to them, they said they made some changes in the wording in that particular document and made some other changes in the grant. But I think if you could do a letter to the businesses in Amenia to gauge the interest in this grant before, so that we can see if people are actually interested in doing, in their, fixing up their property.
Letters to businesses in downtown Amenia, or a press release maybe? Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, because I think we had to specify a certain area.
The target area of East Main Street.
Yeah, the target area, so we could, I think we need to send the letters out and see what kind of interest there is
All right.
before we go
I would
forward.
suspect there would be a lot of interest, especially if it's phrased correctly, at 75% grant. We will work with them. Hudson River Housing has a lot of experience doing these. They've done 3 or 4 Main Street grants, and we've done one too. I think we learned some things. Anyway,
Well, one
thank you.
thing that the private landowners should know is that they have to, it's a reimbursement program, so even though 75% of the
Oh, right.
improvements, qualified improvements with all the correct documentation, receipts, they get reimbursed. So if you're proposing a project of $20,000, then you need to borrow or have on hand enough money to do the project and then get reimbursed. So you need to know up front that you actually have to figure out ways of bridging that cash flow gap.
And, perhaps you could, explain that in the letter so
Right,
that they know. Upfront,
Yes.
so
Right.
that, they know
They're not
exactly what
wasting
it
their
is.
time.
You have to have funding to do the project, and you have to be up to date with your taxes and, things like that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the criteria, I imagine the criteria would probably be the same. You'd probably be able to look up and see if the criteria is the same from last time.
I will. It is available now. All these grants, July 29th is the next big deadline for the CFA application.
Right.
So, all right.
Okay, well, if you go ahead and do that, if everybody's agreed that we should send a letter to see what interest there is out there.
Could we include the business owners in Wassaic as well, just in case there's some?
Oh, I think that would be a different geographic region, right? We'd have
Yes.
to choose one of the business centers
We'd have to
and
choose.
decide, but
I think if we sent it to both, we could see where the majority of interest lay.
Yeah, it can't
You
hurt.
know,
Yeah, the
You
letters
at least
not-
know where the needs are, and maybe next year apply, or this year. I just makes sense, because
Yeah, we
did
could,
this
I
one
mean, we
month.
could send a letter to both places and see what kind of response we get,
All right.
okay?
I'll just write the letter, and then maybe, I don't know, you can identify the landowners to send to somehow.
The
if you send-
business owners.
Yes, that's what I mean, the land.
using parcel access, we can give you the names of
All
the
right.
actual owners. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Well, thank you.
I do have a CAC report.
Okay, go ahead.
Go back to that. Okay. The CAC met last night at our usual meeting, monthly meeting. On the agenda we discussed the new HVA 10-mile watershed manager is Carolyn Clocker for our area, so we welcome her. She's very capable. We know her well from working for years at the Cornell Cooperative Extension. We went over the, very, very briefly, we just gotten the hydrogeological study that Volpamonte proposal had provided. And we mentioned that there are new DEC regs that are proposed that we should certainly be cognizant of, that they are going to be, they've changed the rules about how towns are handling solid waste management facilities, so those are coming up. We talked about a new historic sign that Arlene Giuliano is pursuing from the Pomeroy Foundation. She's been very successful in getting historic markers around the town that we can now see. The Beehive Kilns was the last one, and the Steelworkers Circle. All that history is commemorate on large metal signs that have a little marker that tells about the history that people are passing on the roads. And the next one that she wants to do is a very good one, good idea. It's about the collection that was found by Hoadley. He had a huge collection of arrowheads, and a big portion of those arrowheads were donated to the collection, and it's now at the New York State Museum. That's how important this area was for Native Americans, and it was part of a she's going to recognize that and also mention that the Skedikote tribe was known to have huge regional powwows at the Nook, which is in South Amenia, and we've had some ideas for where to place that in a very obvious place in that very historic part of the road. So we, of course, thought that was an excellent idea. It's all paid for by this grant, the Pomeroy Foundation. She's had an excellent track record at doing that, so we thought that's a good idea. And then we talked a little bit about Silo Ridge's improvements to a stream that was just an intermittent stream that goes through their golf course, and they've got a series of waterfalls that are very well described on this Laughing Waters Facebook website, and it's quite amazing, the huge transformation that has taken place. I think I sent it on to you, but I could forward the link to other places because it's not so visible from the road. We wondered how the ecology, the fish and stuff, I don't know enough about that stream, but I just wondered how that affected the ecology of the stream. But it is quite dramatic and quite amazing what they've done. We did have a letter from Dave Reagan stating, basically, he sent it to the town board. He said, last night at our monthly meeting, the CAC reviewed the Bulfamonte composting proposal, including the hydrology report. Our opposition to this project remains unchanged, and we strongly advise the town board to remain steadfast to their original 4-1 rejection of the same. Sincerely, Dave Reagan, CAC Chair. Basically, it was unanimous. We felt the town said that solid waste management did not belong in the town of Amenia, and the proposed site is very much in a very residential neighborhood, and so it was inconsistent with the quality of life that we feel is appropriate in Amenia. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Silo Ridge street names.
Hello, Pedro Torres, Silo Ridge. I believe you received a letter from Dutchess County Real Property Tax. I guess as part of the subdivision plat, in order for them to issue new addresses, they need the street names that we have in the site plan approved by the town board. I believe they did a search and they found no conflict, but nevertheless, they still need approval by the town board.
My understanding, I spoke with Mr. Tompkins over at the Real Property Tax Department today. So he said there were a couple of revisions, maybe Juan was working with him on it.
Yes, Juan.
So there was a revised list. He was saying the changes occurred after the filing of the preliminary and the final plats.
So the only revision that happened was Peregrine Court originally was listed as Peregrine Drive. He said the drive cannot be used. He said court was fine. So that was discussed, and they ended up deciding just changing the second name behind it.
Was there a second one?
Technically, the one that's named Northeast Circle, that's for a parking, for one of the parking barns, for one of the condominiums. We didn't consider it with the planning board as it being a real road, but because you could drive through, he said it needed a name. And we ended up naming it Northeast Circle.
Okay. So I exchanged emails with Dave Everett, and he said under the town code, in Appendix C32A1 of the subdivision law, it requires approval by the planning board.
But wouldn't that be approved since they approved the site plan already?
There's a couple of changes, so when I talked to Mr. Tompkins, he said they would need a resolution subsequent to the
From the planning board as well?
Yeah, so I don't know when their next meeting is, but Dave was out at meetings today, they kind of exchanged emails, so
Okay.
I think,
There's a meeting next week with the planning board.
okay.
So what we'll do is, we'll meet with the planning board, we'll hopefully get a resolution, send it over.
Can we just approve it conditional upon the planning board's approval of these minor changes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need town board approval.
Oh, we don't
because
need it
the
anyway.
code- The code says the planning
Planning
board
board,
approves
okay.
the names,
Okay.
and the county does their search to make sure there's no
Okay.
conflicts or whatever.
Okay.
So, I guess it's Mr. Tompkins. He would be fine if it was a resolution by the planning board, or
Yeah,
does it have to be?
today.
Oh, okay, great.
You know, what I would do is, you could provide to him a copy of the section out of the
Perfect.
subdivision law, saying the planning board, but I did ask him that specific question, and he said it would be from.
Perfect.
So once they pass the resolution, you're good. You don't need a resolution from us.
Perfect. Okay,
I have
Okay.
a question.
sure.
So it came up at the CAC meeting, is the water, where's the water for the waterfall?
So we have, we actually have a series of waterfalls now. So we had a couple of stream restorations that had to be done, and there were streams that had a lot of erosion because they have a lot of slope, where one used to be in the old number 2. You know, when you went down towards the Dutchess County
The
Sheriff's.
substation,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that
And
got
then
redone,
joined.
but that's not what Laughing Waters did. That got redone. There used to be another one, old 15, I believe.
It's a very minor little,
It was minor, but that in the winter, we have a lot of water that goes through there, the spring.
right.
So there was a stream restoration there, that was finished as well. And we had a stream that we created, it's a water feature though, which
It
essentially.
recirculates?
Water recirculates.
Okay.
And that's the one that Laughing Water did.
Oh, okay.
That has the big
okay.
waterfalls.
We're just trying to figure out how that
Yeah.
all tied together, and it wasn't obvious from
Yeah.
the topo maps. So, great, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bufamonte Compost Facility Hydrogeologic Evaluation.
Good evening, Andrew Maggio, attorney for Mr. Bufamonte. This evening, we have Mr. Bufamonte with us, the owner applicant. Just to give you a rehash of his background, Mr. Bufamonte has a degree in botany, soil management, and horticulture. His client list ranges from private individuals to large institutions and colleges in the New York City area, which are very environmentally conscious. Also, we have David Wright. He's an engineer with GHD Consulting Services. He's been involved with this project from the start. He's the expert in the area who will be answering all your technical questions. And also Stephen Trader, who's a hydrologist with Alpha Geoscience. Mr. Trader has done extensive amounts of water testing. And also on my property to the east of Mr. Bufamonte's property, there's 2 existing monitoring wells which were put in back when the gravel mine was proposed. So I've given Mr. Trader access to those wells, and he would incorporate those in any future monitoring endeavors. We're here tonight to address the town engineer's comments and the town board's comments, and we're here in a way to give specific information, specific solutions, our new developments that will hopefully address some of the concerns that the community has about the drinking water and the aquifer. And we want to give you as much detail and show and prove to you our commitment to protecting the environment. And we're going to start with Mr. Wright, and Mr. Wright has some developments, and he can answer any of your specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I guess before I get into a little bit more of the background, just want to say thank you again for this opportunity. We understand that the CAC had met last night. We appreciate those comments you've already shared, as well as comments shared by community members this evening. I'd like to go back to our conversation in February when we came and presented. At that time, we presented what we proposed, what Mr. Bolfamonte is proposing as engineered controls for his site. As an engineer, I've worked on projects in critical environmental areas that do host composting facilities successfully. And I could share those examples with you if you're interested. Again, just as a reminder, and I do want to really focus and give opportunity to the hydrogeology study that was presented, and I'll allow Stephen Trader to do that. But as background, I want to just reiterate what is proposed for our site, if you allow me to do so. We're looking again at an asphalt pad on which composting activities would occur. We had some questions that were raised by the community when we had presented that idea that asphalt pads are still in some sense pervious to water. What Mr. Bolfamonte is willing to do now as an additional environmental measure is to install a liner below that asphalt pad, which would intercept any material that made its way migrating through what is generally considered an impervious asphalt surface. Secondly, we had discussed at the previous meeting concerns relative to how surface waters would be managed. If it rains and there's runoff, what are we going to be doing to manage the runoff? We've already offered up the proposal of lining a retention pond. Mr. Bolfamonte has expressed the ability to pump down that pond as needed, to either recirculate the water on the piles or to take that water off-site for disposal if the water quality is such that it requires disposal. So that pond would be lined, and it would be designed in such a way to provide freeboard above the state's minimum requirements. It was already mentioned that the state has new regulations being promulgated relative to solid waste management facilities for composting. Those regulations are actually less stringent. However, Mr. Bolfamonte is willing to maintain current standards to design in accordance with more stringent requirements. As a last item, relative to the hydrogeology report, there's been monitoring wells installed at the site. Mr. Bolfamonte would be willing to allow for the town to implement a groundwater monitoring program. We feel as if the hydrogeology study indicates that a composting site could be effectively operated without impacting the aquifer. And through implementing a groundwater monitoring program, there would be a level of assurance based on data that the site was not impacting the community's valuable drinking water resource. Typically that occurs on a quarterly monitoring basis, so that's what we would propose as a baseline. Finally, Mr. Bolfamonte had offered as well at the previous community hearing the proposal of having third-party independent inspections of the facility at a routine interval where he would be willing to pay for a third-party special inspector to come and witness operations on behalf of the town. Before I let Steve come up and present the hydrogeology report findings, answer your questions in that capacity, I was wondering if the town board had any questions in regards to what I've just stated. Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce now Steve Trader from Alpha Geoscience.
Good evening. I'm Steve Trader with Alpha Geoscience. I was asked by Mr. Bulfamonte to do a hydrogeologic study of his site. Apparently that was something that was requested at the past meeting. What we wanted to do in this evaluation was determine what the depth to the groundwater table was, determine what the direction of groundwater flow at the site is, and also determine what the existing groundwater quality is at the site. So what we did was put 3 monitoring wells in across the water table. And from the water level data that we got from those wells, we surveyed the elevation of the wells first. We were able to determine it's a southeastward flow direction in the water table from the site. And the depth of water across the site is between 15 and 25 feet. There is a bedrock well towards the back of the site near the hillside, and that is a flowing artesian well. So the top of the well is sticking up about 3 feet off the ground, and the water is flowing off the top of that. So it's, if you were to stick a pipe on there, it would even go up some distance above that. This is an indication that you've got an upward hydraulic gradient. So the bedrock is actually discharging water to the sand and gravel aquifer, which is at the site. So the water table is occurring within the sand and gravel aquifer. It is fed by rainfall that comes down, as well as from the bedrock from the hillside discharging upward into that. So there's primarily, you have the 2 main aquifers, the superficial sand and gravel aquifer and the bedrock aquifer. It's my understanding that the best wells in the town are in the bedrock, in the limestone, which is the Stockbridge marble formation. What we did was we sampled the bedrock well at the site, and also sampled the down gradient monitoring well for the sand and gravel aquifer. So we got the results from that. The bedrock water quality is very good. There was nothing that was above any kind of drinking water standards. Everything was cool in that regard. The monitoring well, which is MW1, which is the down gradient monitoring well at the site. The water quality there was generally okay, but there were definitely some things that were high, that were above drinking water standards, and that would be arsenic, iron, manganese, magnesium, something called gross alpha radioactivity, which is natural. I think that was all the ones that were elevated. Oh, lead. Lead also was elevated. So the groundwater quality at the site and in the surrounding area for the sand and gravel aquifer is fairly poor. This is just a one-shot in time sampling. So Mr. Bulfamonte would be sampling that a few more times before any kind of thing would even think about getting started, just to establish a better baseline of water quality at the site. The final thing that we wanted to try to address with the study was to see what the potential for, what the risk is for impacting the best water supply, which is in the Stockbridge Formation, which is down deep. At the site, there's an irrigation well that's 160 feet deep, and it did not encounter bedrock. So if bedrock is below 160 feet at the east part of the site. Bedrock is exposed over on the west side of the hillside. So that's the range of depth of bedrock, is at the surface all the way down to greater than 160 feet. There is a clay layer that's within the sand and gravel aquifer. This is about anywhere from 18 to over 30 feet down. That was at the site, and then across the site, across the Route 22 to the east, as Mr. Maggio had mentioned, there was a study done back in the late 90s for a potential sand and gravel operation. And those wells that were put in over there also encountered this clay layer. The clay layer is important because that it further limits the potential for any kind of contamination at the surface to go downward into the lower part of the aquifer and potentially hit the Stockbridge marble. So you've got the clay layer is a second, well, not a second. The first line of defense is the impervious design, the impervious layer beneath the composting material. And then the second line of defense is that the clay layer that's down there. Third line of defense is the fact that it's an upward gradient of water from the bedrock up at the site. So those are the main things that limit the risk to the Stockbridge Marble Formation for any kind of contamination. So that's generally a summary. If anybody has any direct questions. I don't know if you've all had time to look at it. It's a lot to go through.
Is there we found at Silo Ridge property, for instance, that we had two different hydrogeologists look at the same monitoring well, and they came up with vastly different understandings. Are there a lot of interpretations of, is it hard to definitively say, this is what we're finding, and that is what's going, or is it difficult to actually definitively say once and for all, this is what it is? Those two water monitoring wells, those give you a sufficient feeling that you understand exactly what's underneath?
Well, we have 3 monitoring wells at the site that we put in. Then we have 2 more that we're using across Route 22. We've also got the bedrock well, and there's an irrigation well on the site. It's deeper. It's not open across the water table. It's getting water from further down. I would say it's pretty definitive about what we've determined based on all that information. I'm not sure about the Silo Ridge, a single well that people would have a difference of opinion over. I don't know what the opinion would be on. There is a depth of water. There's a depth of the well. There's the geologic material that it goes through. I'm not sure what...
Well, there's folds and layers, as we understand, and it changes. Right. Unless you had X-ray vision, you wouldn't know exactly where all of those folds and ridges and things are.
That's
you
true.
Could do sink another well and find out the depth of the groundwater is vastly different. It's, at surface. I don't know. You can see that there are folds and layers and upward jutting and the land is very variable, let's just say, in that particular area, particularly where the continent's, jamming up and shoving the layers everywhere, right?
Right. Now, Silo Ridge is on a ridge, I guess. I haven't been there. That's probably this slaty, it's called a schist, if anybody cares. It's been folded a lot. There's lots of folds and all that. Now, that stuff is the bedrock of the hillside to the west of the proposed site plan. All right?
To the north.
That's up on the hillside, right? So none of the wells we have. The bedrock well actually goes down through about 50 feet of sand and gravel and then another 450 feet into that same rock formation. Now, as far as knowing what the folds are doing, no, there's no way to tell without some sort of intense geophysics survey, but that really wouldn't have any relevance on our evaluation as far as the depth of groundwater at the site or the direction of flow. That's pretty definitive.
So that well that you found the contaminants in, or the tests that you did the contaminants in, where did the contaminants come from?
Naturally occurring in the sand and gravel.
In the sand.
It's my understanding this was in the beehive furnaces. There's some iron. There's a source of iron somewhere. Whether they got it from the hillside or from the sand and gravel, I'm not sure. I don't know the history of that. Perhaps somebody here does. But there's naturally occurring. Iron and manganese are typically high in a sand and gravel formation. I say typically high, not necessarily above drinking water standards, but in this case, it was. The lead is a bit of a strange one, being...
So even before this project even gets started, there's already contaminants in the water.
That's right. So those contaminants are already in the water. So if the Stockbridge Formation is in contact with that, and people are using that, if there was any chance of contamination, it would have happened by now from that.
At what level? I mean, the water that goes to, like, the Tally Ho Park, I mean, that gets tested regularly.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, that gets tested.
It gets tested regularly, and their water's been fine, so whatever level of contaminant you're finding is something that is well below any causing any harm to anyone.
The levels in the well are above drinking water standards. If you were to try
I'm
to
sorry,
drink...
can I ask, just
Yes.
to clarify, but the sample that you had that had those elevated levels, that was groundwater sample, essentially?
It
That
was a
not-
groundwater sample from the sand and gravel aquifer.
Right.
I'm not sure what the mobile home park, Tally Ho, I'm not sure what that well is tapping for water. I'm guessing it's probably going to be the Stockbridge Formation. That information is somewhere. It can
Yeah,
be
it's
obtained.
probably a lot.
Yeah,
A lot
that's the best
farther
water.
down. I mean, you
Yeah.
can find anything in groundwater, depending where you're testing.
What do you mean by anything?
Well, you're more likely to find contaminants in groundwater than if you're testing down farther in the aquifer.
Well, the aquifer is groundwater too.
I know it is.
We're talking
but
about
it's
the superficial.
farther down, so
But if it was in contact with the sand and gravel, which has some contaminants in it, either it's already in there and there's probably enough water in the Stockbridge Formation from elsewhere that it
so
dilutes
that's your
it.
site.
So it
At your
dilutes it.
site, that's where the contaminants are?
They're up in the water table. Yes, pre-existing. And since the down gradient wells have not shown any high levels of those same contaminants, reportedly, that has not, the superficial aquifer contaminants that we found have not influenced that over the years. They've been there since geologic time.
There was a question on the EAF about the demand for water on the site. I don't know if you can answer that kind of question.
I couldn't address that.
You
no.
couldn't, okay. All right, the question was that you suggested on the EAF that the new water usage would be about 5,000 gallons per day. And we just wondered, I guess the Dutchess County Parcel Access lists the capacity of the existing well on the site as 5.5 gallons per minute. Would this be enough to satisfy the water demands of the proposed project? You know, you have neighbors all around, and one of the worries that they have with doing pump tests and such is to find out what the draw of a massive amount of water per day would have on the surrounding neighbors as well.
Right, yeah, so we had just indicated in the EAF that there is some water demand. When the weather is dry, you need to wet the piles to maintain the process. So we haven't delved into those details yet. What we were hoping to do as an outcome of this meeting is to have the town's permission to address these comments in greater detail. Now that we've done the hydrogeology study, we have the information we would need to better assess some of these questions. But
That's fine,
suffice to say, the water demand, we do have already an irrigation well at the site that has a yield of 30 GPM. Over 30 gallons per minute. That's more than enough.
You said the demand is 5,000 gallons a day? So that's about just over a gallon a minute. Most residential homes are at least 3 gallons a minute. Any questions? Okay.
Good evening, I'm Anthony Buffalmonte. I want to thank everyone for giving us the opportunity to come before you again, and I would like to answer any questions. As a result of the last meeting, we did go forward and perform a hydrogeological study, very in-depth. Our design, as it stands, exceeds the new enforcement, which is not in effect yet, but will be by Mario Cuomo. He's the one spearheading this. And every existing compost facility in the state of New York will have to be retrofitted to a design that is inferior to what I've proposed. Ours is beyond the standard, which will be upcoming. So all current facilities will probably be, well, not closed, but would have to be retrofitted. There are no facilities currently with a lined surface. There's not one in the state of New York on a lined surface. We would be the first one. having the extra protection of a 60 mil rubber liner, which is as impervious, there's impossible for water to pass it. About the concern about the 5,000 gallons a day, we're going to rely on a little bit of the runoff, which we're collecting, to rehydrate the piles. The wells are not going to be sacrificed to anyone's concern. The 5.5 gallon well was installed when I built the home on the property. Since then, an irrigation well has been put in at 30 gallons a minute with a much higher supply of water available in the event that we do need it during the course of a drier summer. So there's not going to be any affected homes in the area about running out of water, and it's probably almost impossible to have any runoff off our piles. These piles will act like a sponge. They're going to absorb about 70 to 80% of all rainwater, if not more. It's typically a dry product, so any rainwater would actually be beneficial, not presenting an oncurring problem with runoff. The piles themselves are probably going to absorb the majority of the water, as we need this product to be between 30 and 50% hydration to make a usable product. In the meantime, since the last meeting, I've been awarded to run the compost facility for the village of Rybrook in Westchester County. So I will have a DC permit in our name. We are going to be an operator of a municipality that awarded us the contract because of our credentials, and I have all the information if you'd like to contact them. My contract begins July 1st. In the interim, I have purchased all the equipment, which was sort of spectacle up till now that I was not going to purchase and make the investments. All the investments have been made. I do own all the equipment, and I will have all Tier 4 compliant. If everyone knows what that is, it's the latest emission, most quiet, most environmentally sound machinery available on the market. I will be the first facility in Rybrook in the state of New York to have this modern equipment. The DEC, we still have some conversations about this facility. They're very involved with the existing facility, which we've taken over for the town. Like I said, we won the bid because of our credentials and our experience in making compost and our horticultural experience in general. So we will be running that facility as well for the municipality directly. So we're actually working directly for the government agency. I'm their contractor, and we're going to be operating a DC registration. It's not a permit. It's about 10 to 12,000 yards a year. It's a little smaller than up here, but we will be processing all the material, have it matured, screened, sold as an end product for gardens and farms and landscaping industry as well.
Did you plan to do retail out of this Amenia parcel?
No.
It would just strictly be in and out?
Exactly. And after the first season, or phase one, so we don't have any working inventory. So after the first season, it's also going to limit the amount of trucks on the road, because as a truck comes in full, he will leave full. So, and I've also, I just did some quick calculations. There was concern about trucking. So I did all my evaluations because I needed to do it when I made a presentation to the village of Rybrook. In the busy season, it's March, April, and May. And then again, October, November, December. So 6 out of the 12 months are the busiest seasons, which would have the 5 trucks a day. And if you do the math, and I can show everyone the calculations, that's going to equate to my maximum phase 3 build out, not phase 1 or phase 2. So the maximum phase 3 build out, which is probably 3 years out, is a maximum of 5 trucks a day for 3 months, 2 intervals, so 6 months out of the year. And the remaining 6 months would only be less than about a truck a week to make up the balance, as May, June, July, August, September are extremely slow. Nothing really happens landscape-wise, and nothing happens January, February. That'll be the time of year where we're actually processing the material and making a product. And the rest of the season, it's pretty much going to mature on its own with our engineered aerated static pile, which is also by far the most advanced, environmentally friendly system available, engineered today, period. There won't be any argument about the engineering capacity of this facility.
So I take it that Rybrook has this type of facility as part of their zoning allowed?
No, they own the land. They own the land, and it's their facility, so they're allowed to do it.
He's
It's been,
contracting it.
So you're
a
contracting
contractor.
with the town?
I'm operating
On their land?
on their,
And using their land, is that correct?
I am on their property, correct. So my operation is on their property. It's been there, so, let me see, in 85, so over 30 years, I've been on this facility buying product from previous contractors who've had the contract in the past.
And where is the facility located?
It's
in what type of area? Is it in an industrial area?
No, it actually abuts a very high-end, it's called Belfair. It's a very high-end residential property. It abuts 3 senior living facilities. It abuts, one very high-end golf course. And the homes, I'm going to say the homes are less than 1,000 feet away. It's called Belfair. It's on, the development is on King Street in the village of Rybrook. This facility is on Lincoln Lane, and we're at the foot of the Westchester County Airport, and we're in the fly path. So planes fly over it 50, 60, 70 times a day. So, of course, we have to follow the guidelines as far as dust, any kind of smoke, anything that comes off the piles has to be. And we are not doing aerated static piles. We're doing traditional static piles there, turn piles, and it's all been approved by the state, the municipalities, and they really scrutinized the candidates for the application that were able to bid. It was myself and 4 other companies, and they took my proposal of everybody, and the decision was made in about a week. They contacted us, interviewed us again. They needed to see the equipment that we purchased, so I flew out to Pella, Iowa, to the factory, sourced the machinery, showed them sales agreement on the purchases. They contacted the dealers to make sure everything was on the up and up, and they were satisfied with our proposal, and they've accepted us to be their contractor. So we'll be making, and Ms. Doyle, going back to your question, there will be no retail sales. I prefer no retail sales out of this facility. That would be too much traffic, and I don't really want a little pickup truck, coming in for 1 yard of material. It's not going to be that kind of facility. So if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer them. Any concerns?
Mr. Buffalmonte?
Yes.
I mean, you understand that the board denied a zoning tax change and there is no composting permitted in the town of Amenia, right?
I understand that. So tonight...
Okay, just wanted to...
No, I understand that. So tonight the hope was if you would accept my reapplication process where we could supply another application with more detail, more research. We've done the studies. We're here to ask again to entertain the idea of us having this facility, providing of an application, and considering a text amendment for our facility. And in the interim, we've also surveyed the OC district in depth. We actually have a map of it. There are little to no other properties in the district that are suitable for this type of operation. As well, it's about a Dave Wright has that, and it's about a $3 to $4 million infrastructure build out. So I don't see many other people proposing this. I don't see many other companies having this idea in this area before me. I don't think people are going to jump ship and just come on board and just want to do this as well. It's pretty much an isolated, area. I mean, we're going to beautify the front of the property. We've already spoken to the Department of Transportation about lining Route 22, which is their property, as they've told me. All lined with evergreens. There'd be a solid gate. Nothing would be visible from the road. Sound is to a minimal. I don't think 5 trucks a day impacts traffic. They had no concern about that. It wasn't even something they were really listening. It's almost no traffic. It's nothing added to the traffic as far as congestion or any kind of traffic congestion being to happen with 5 vehicles a day at these spaced out intervals.
But there is a composting situation on the Roxbury Sand and Gravel. They have piles that we haven't really...
Right. But they're not permitted.
No.
And they were shut down by the DEC. So Terry Labyrinth and Tracy O'Malley have been after them to clean up the site. They are allowed, like other properties with enough properties, they are allowed legally to have 3,000 yards of compost on the facility with no permit, no permission. It's 100% legal under DEC regulations. So if their piles are under 3,000 yards, they do not need to move the piles, as no other property owner is enforced to do that. It is legal. And actually, an officer from the New York State DEC actually visited my property, and I had an in-depth phone conversation with him. We were trying to meet in person, but our schedules didn't allow, and we had the same conversation, that you are allowed to compost up to 3,000 yards of material on your property with no permit, registration, regulation. It's New York State law. There's no boundaries or barriers on that law. So they might fall under that, where the property has a clean. Their site is more of a red flag because they're adjacent to the 10-mile river, and actual runoff can go to the river, to the actual watershed, where our property has none of that. And DEC has visited our property, and we're aware of the other facilities. And I'm not saying they're all being run legally, and I'm not sure they're all up to par. All I'm saying and guaranteeing to the town is our facility will be the most advanced, safest out of any facility in the state of New York.
Did you have a question?
Yes.
Could you come up here, please?
Yes.
Oh.
Mr. Buford.
I have to ask, I probably may not be true, but I wanted to, I'm sorry, your first name and your last name? No, the attorney.
Andrew Maggio.
Andrew Maggio. I want to ask you in front of the board, you bought property as well across the street. You bought 200 acres.
Yes.
I want to know what you're going to do with your 200 acres.
Andrew, could you?
You're going to have to repeat the question because it's being taped and the audience won't know what you're
Okay,
asking.
I'll repeat it.
You need to talk.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Andrew, I just wanted to ask you, you had mentioned it before, and at the last meeting we were here and the decision wasn't in your favor, and I remember you saying this, and I'll use the vernacular of what Andrew said. I'm out all the skin. Let me tell you what he means by skin, money. But you also said about your 200 acres that you had, that you purchased. So I'm assuming, I could be very wrong because you're friends with Mr. Belfamonte and everybody wants to go in business and this would be a very profitable business. Are you going to be living here or is this something that you are going to be doing also?
I didn't know I was on the stand, but I'd be more than happy to answer your questions because there's nothing to hide here. What am I doing with my property? My property has a Dutchess Land Conservancy easement on it. It can be, the primary use of my land is agricultural, and that is a permanent easement that runs with the land, that runs in perpetuity forever, and I'm committed to agriculture on that property. And just as of this year, 99% sure my property was inspected. I've not used chemical fertilizers or herbicides on that land for 3 years. It'll be certified organic, 95%. I have not received the certificate, but I've gone through all the preliminary things. So I'm just as concerned about the water as you are.
So you aren't going to be doing, if this was passed, it would become better, be doing that, Mr. Belfamonte?
No.
We can't have a three-way conversation here. People can't hear.
I have the answer.
The answer is no. The answer is no. I can't do that.
Okay, Andrew answered next.
Okay.
I mean, people want to know.
Okay, I would just like to touch on that question. So the DEC, I love Andrew's property, and I would love to have Andrew's property, and it's huge, and it's protected by neighbors, and that is not a property, that is not a candidate for composting because of the adjacent 10-mile river. So as big as the property is, there cannot be composting allowed on that property because of the adjacent water supply. So as big as that property is, what I'm proposing cannot be entertained on that property. It's not a candidate for DEC.
It's also not zoned OC, so.
Okay, so that's
Would
the
not
answer. Okay.
work.
Okay. Yes.
But if that piece was agricultural, he could do composting on it.
No.
only from what's collected from the property.
from the property.
Right.
So if you wanted to put 400 cows on those 200 acres and have
Yes.
piles of horse manure
Yes.
50 feet up in the air, you could do it
If it came from the property, it can be processed on the
without
property.
regulation.
Without regulation.
Okay.
I'd like to also just mention one thing which I'd like to offer the town. This is strictly out of good faith. If we do advance with this project, I would like to make a nice donation to the town. This is strictly out of good faith. And also, I would like to present a hosting agreement with the town where if we open, and this does go through, which we're hoping for, we would like to propose that every yard of material that's sold, which would be dictated by the New York State DEC, not by us, that we would like to sort of pay back out of our profits to the town. This would be an excellent source of income. My minimum calculations is upwards of about $50,000 a year to the town off of the product sold off the property, in conjunction with the tax revenue and also benefiting the town with jobs that we'll be offering.
May I get up again and say something?
I want to
Wait a minute, okay.
Yes.
Do you have the hand mic? No?
Sorry, just to clarify one thing, Mr. Bulfamonte, you said products sold...
I'm sorry.
Just to clarify one thing, you said products sold off of the property?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
but you said there's no retail?
No, we would be wholesaling the we would be wholesaling the product off-site.
So products sold, products made on the property?
Yes.
Is what you, okay.
So the yard waste would come in, the compost would be made, it would be screened, it would be a saleable product, which we would truck off-site. We would wholesale the product off-site, and in return, the town would host into that and be a source of revenue for the town. And I know we've been having, I've been to a lot of meetings, and I've been, hearing for the last year or so about community kitchen and the rec center, and I would definitely be willing to offer a $25,000 donation to the town to improve any upcoming construction projects you have in the rec centers. We want to make we're making a very large investment. And Amenia, I will take your question, but Amenia is changing. I've been looking at property in Amenia, and I've contacted Silo Ridge about buying property there as well for myself. And Amenia is changing, so I understand the country feel, and I understand the quaintness of the town. That's why I bought the property in the first place. We wanted to grow trees. We wanted to be in this area. My family's been in the town of Washington since probably early, mid-'80s, and we've been up here for a long time. We love the area. My kids enjoy the property. We're at the house all the time. We constantly use our property. We're not looking to cause any harm to the town. If anything, we're going to be an asset to the town. With all this high-end community coming in, and we work in a lot of high-end communities, they require landscaping, organic compost, topsoil. This product is always used on these kinds of properties. It's not a little, 1 acre plot. It's not a mobile home community. What's coming, what's on the forefront for this town? The town is changing. It's a known place. The name is out there. Silo Ridge, the clientele that's moving to Silo Ridge is going to demand products that we're going to be making and supplying, whether it be purchased by us or other companies. It's coming into this town. And I know there was comments about, cheap land and this and that. $1 million for a 1 acre building lot is not cheap land in the town of Amenia. The town is going to a different level. And we work in a lot of high-end communities, and every community we work in, all of them, every municipality we work in, has a compost facility. And I can name 30 of them in 1 second.
Is the town of Rye Brook
Yes.
taking in outside materials, or are they processing their own town residents-wide?
I'm taking all the town resident, and I'm allowed to bring in my own bulking agents to make the topsoil. I'm allowed to make topsoil and mulch at the facility. So I'm allowed only my trucks. It can't be a public dump site where any landscaper can dump there. We're allowed to bring our yard waste there, process it, incorporate it into a finished product.
So the difference is, just if you follow that
Yes.
line, is that's a town-operated facility. You happen to be the contractor, but it's a town-operated facility.
Yes.
And it's primarily a opportunity for local residents to deal with their excessive
Yard-based,
stuff.
yes.
Here, you're saying, let's bring it all from New York City and on an intensive property, small, relatively small site, and max it out, and it's just incongruous. This is a very different relationship. We were now taking what Westchester and New York City don't want to deal with and chucking it all the way up here because Amenia, you happen to buy this land that, it just feels like we are the dumping ground once again for all the stuff that nobody else wants.
It's
And
not-
we're asleep at the wheel and we are taken in by this or that.
A dump site, a dump site, not to cut you off, a dump site,
It's solid waste.
a dump site is where you dump material and you dump it there and it stays there.
But every day, we're not going to be there to police it. We can't even figure out what's going on Route 22, and we pass it every
Right.
day. We have no idea
Right, that's why the DEC is
what's
involved.
going on.
That's why
What's in those piles. We don't know.
That's why the DEC monitors our facility.
But we don't believe it because they're not monitoring that facility.
It's not a facility.
They are there doing sand and gravel, and they don't seem to.
It's not a permitted compost facility,
Yeah, but they're there on site anyway.
but it's not a permitted facility.
They are permitted for gravel.
It's not a permitted compost facility.
They're there.
But that's
It's
not
not a
his
comp-
problem, Vicki,
It's
that's our
not,
problem.
it's not a permitted compost facility.
We're undersized for this kind of reality.
But it's
My design-
How big is the town of Rybrook? How big is that town and how big is their budget compared to our,
I'm not sure. I don't know what their budget
you
is.
know how many population it is?
I mean, you
We're
want
not-
We're at 50%, just as far as DEC is concerned, we're at 50% of the capacity that they would allow. We've scaled it back drastically. DEC will allow us for 50% more of what we're proposing. And I understand about this other precedent and stereotypes and everything else. They don't apply to me.
DEC won't allow anything unless this town wants it to
Sharon,
happen.
please.
Why is it that I'm the only one you ever say shut up, when everybody else is talking
I
at the
didn't
same
tell
time?
you to
always
shut up.
me.
I just said I want you to
Okay,
have...
this meeting was out of order before I started talking, and you're not getting control of it, and I wish you would.
I'm just asking you to take the microphone. There's one right next to you.
I'm going to wait to speak in a public hearing.
Good.
Okay.
I hope that's the last I hear of you to then.
Mrs. Supervisor Parati, may I please speak?
Yes.
Because I am busting. The last meeting that we had here, and I thank you for your gift, but I have to tell you something. We are not hicks from the sticks. That's number one. When we left here last time, you had all your people with you, and your comment was, they're stupid.
Really?
You know what?
Okay.
I was angry enough to start, and I says, no, that's not the way to be. You're just going to have it set out in a public forum. You seem to be only for him. What is the benefit for you? There is something.
It's not a benefit for me, it's a benefit for the
It's
town.
not a benefit
This whole
for the
town
town. No,
has been
it's
asleep
not.
at the wheel for years.
So
all
we
right?
are getting
There's
there.
people that have to live in this
I
town
don't wanna
and
listen to
earn
you.
a living.
You listen to
Okay? Now, you're down in your Tally Ho Park, which is great and well, it's a great park. We have to earn a living in this town. We have to have a mix of agriculture, industrial, business. This town is going to die. The young people are not staying in this
You are
town.
so wrong. Let me tell
I'm
you.
wrong.
Michael,
This
do you
town is
know why?
thriving.
Do you know why?
You can't even keep a grocery store down in
Michael,
Dover.
listen.
Please wait until... Are you finished?
Do you know why, Michael, this is not going to die?
Go ahead.
You have the boomers coming up here that want to live. The ones with all this money.
Live and do
they
what?
want to have homes here.
We don't even
they
have
want
septic
to
in
open
town.
businesses, Michael.
And you can't do
It's
that
something
without
that's going to
infrastructure.
happen.
You cannot do that without a tax base. How come it hasn't happened? Our own comprehensive
Because
plan
no one wanted
that
it at
was
that
written
time.
how many years ago states the main thing for the town is infrastructure and to start businesses. We are not doing that as a town. We're strangling these businesses that want to come here. Yes, are they going to make money? Of course they are. But so are we. Our school districts are at the bottom. Why?
You people stopped this years ago. Now it's starting to
Stopped
creep.
what years ago?
Stop people coming
Let her
in, but
finish.
now it is starting. And it's going to start the right way. I can see that. A lot on the board don't want it to just come like that and give this to just anybody here. It will happen. You will have growth, I promise you. I said when they were starting with Silo Ridge, not because I said it.
And how
I
long
said,
did
"This is
Silo
gonna
Ridge
be
take?"
phenomenal. I don't care. It's
How
starting
long did
now.
it take?
And with that,
I've been in the center of town for 25 years.
Yes.
25 years, and I'm still waiting.
I know you
I'm
are.
still waiting.
And there are other people on 22 that are doing very well.
And still waiting also.
I don't think so. Jax is phenomenal.
You want to guarantee that
He
he's
does a great
still waiting
business.
also.
He does a great business, Michael.
And so do I.
Okay.
But it could be better.
enough.
And
Please
this is
give
what
her
I'm
the-
saying. It could
she
be
would like to
better.
say something.
Victoria, I'm sorry I'm getting off track. I just want to say this. We are not Hicks from the sticks. And when that man said it that night, I wanted to take him and choke him.
When did he
The
said that at a
last
meeting?
meeting, when he left here and they were turned down, they were all standing together. And that was, oh, they're nothing but stupid. So I want you to know, these people think you're stupid. And if you take the 25,000, you are stupid.
Absolutely. I mean, Carol, Lee, again, 3529,
Yes.
right next door to you.
Yes, hi.
Residential, house built in 1712, addition on 1842. Farming community, our neighbor Tim Cole owns all that property behind you, all the way up to the mountain. He's an organic farmer. He's in the process of getting certified to extend it to be organic. He has hay facility, he has cattle, he has horses. And we are farming, and if you want to give money to someone, give it to us, because you're going to screw our property value. You know?
Okay.
All right. You just
Could you please sit down at your seat and speak?
give me
Thank you.
$200,000, because that's what you're going to cost us right off the bat. Bribing the town and saying
There's no bribe. This is a public meeting. I made a public offering.
we're going to give you gifts if they let you put a industrial facility in a residential area. That's what it comes down to. And not just the aquifer. How about noise pollution? You're not even at capacity yet. And yes, we have the traffic coming on 22, and we hear that. But that doesn't compare to the sound of your trucks beeping and beeping and beeping and pulling up and down that road when you're unloading and loading. It changes our farm property, our residential property. It sounds like we're, in a loading dock. That's not what my son and his wife envisioned when they bought this property, wanted to restore it to its original splendor. It's a historic monument in this town. And to be right next door to probably one of the biggest complaints that McEnroe's has, and they have a compost facility that's organic, is the flies, is the insects. Yes, they create a beautiful product, but I wouldn't want to live next door to it. And when we purchased the property, it was not to live next door to something that was going to be industrial. You can't guarantee that's not going to happen. You can't guarantee the atmosphere. There should be properties that you could purchase and use that are not residential, that are not subject to air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution, and would be more appropriate for what you want to do. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a business, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have a business in this area if you want, but it needs to be considered for everyone's desires. You're not going to be you're not like a hospital coming in, you're not going to be bringing in, a couple hundred employees. It's going to be a very small operation.
Yes.
Very well planned, yes.
Yes.
To maximize your investment. I understand that. I think it's the wrong place. I think that the town has let you know they're not interested, and you should say, okay, you're not wanted. You're not wanted in that location.
I'm a taxpayer,
So are we.
so why don't I have a right?
Don't let back and forth, please.
Okay.
Procedurally.
Rural taxpayers,
I bought property in an OC
And,
district.
Let her finish.
Okay, I'm sorry.
rural taxpayers, and if we had any idea that we could end up next to a compost facility, that would have affected us. It would have affected our concept of moving here to raise family, to bring our not huge income, but substantial. We are part of what this next phase of Amenia probably is going to be. It's, you know, it's not going backwards. I don't know, you know, when we studied the area to move to, it looked like it was not a retro community. It seems to have a foot in the future as well as establishing the past. So I don't think that things are going to fall apart if an industrial facility doesn't end up in a residential area. I think that's doomsdaying. It just, you know, that's it. you know.
Okay, I need to cut off the comment here. Could you give the microphone back? What is the purpose of your being here tonight, Mr. Bulfamante?
We would like another chance to present an application to the board to review for a text amendment. Our last application was insufficient. A lot of information was missing. We would like to present it again. We would like to see this facility happen. I think it's the right thing for the town. It's not intrusive to the environment, the neighbors. I've done extensive testing. I understand at the last meeting, the main concern at the last meeting, and there were some other ones, was the quality of water. I've done my due diligence, and I've paid for a very extensive hydrogeological report, which was always on the back burner, discussed. Why hasn't it been done? We have no proof. We have no records. We have no recordings. We have no readings. I've done all that, and they seem extremely satisfactory. And with our proposal with having a third party monitoring company, which I would pay for, monitoring all wells, we're just doing everything we possibly could to have this facility open. We really think it's a good thing for the town. I don't think it's going to ruin anything. I think my company in this town would be very beneficial. A bribe is something that's done behind doors. I'm proposing an investment into the town to further improve this town and to beautify this town. And the financial revenue, the source of the stream of revenue that the town could benefit is another benefit that I would be bringing to this town. And I'm not saying the town doesn't have money. I'm saying the town's falling apart. Whatever's been mentioned didn't come out of my mouth. But I know my business would improve the town even further as a source of revenue. And as far as my donation, it's not a buy-off or a payout. It's just something that I would like to give to the town to show my good faith and my investment in this town. I could buy property in any town I want. I'm here. I'd like to stay here. I love our property. It's extremely convenient. I think it's a great location. We're not downtown Amenia. We're not outside Town Hall. We have a pretty big piece of property. Our facility is a tiny spot on the property. It only takes a couple acres. Like I said, our design build-out is about 50% under what's allowed by the New York State DEC. I've mentioned it in the past. They visited our property. As far as they're concerned, it's an excellent piece of property. We're not near any wetlands, streams of water bodies.
Okay, we would like, the board would like to have some discussion on this now. I think we've heard enough.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for seeing me again.
And we did vote to not entertain the application and not entertain an additional text amendment to amend the zoning on a 4-to-1 vote. Does the board want to entertain this application, or do they want to leave the original vote as it stands?
I mean, the thing is, I don't think you have a formal application before you.
No, we don't. We have a request. And what is in place right now is that we took a vote, and it was 4-1, to not allow the text amendment to the current zoning law. And that's what is in place now. We don't have another application from Mr. Buffamonte. He's gone ahead and done some testing on his own without a request from the town board or the planning board to try to convince us to go ahead and entertain the text amendment. I, at this point, don't see the need to change what we've already done. If someone disagrees with that and wants to take another vote, then they need to say so.
Victoria, the vote that we took to not allow the text amendment,
Right.
if that vote would have went the other way and we allowed that, that doesn't mean that we're allowing the project. Is that correct?
Clearly, yeah.
Yes. What that does, it moves the project to the next stage so we can do our environmental assessments and the traffic studies can be done and the noise pollution studies can be done.
But the project isn't allowed under the current zoning law.
Yes, but if we change the text amendment, that allows this project to go to the EAF state. It allows all the environmental impacts and everything else to be studied.
Right. And we voted to not add the text amendment to the zoning and change the zoning. We've already voted on this.
I mean,
Okay.
there is no specific proposed text amendment
Right.
before the board. I mean, I've never seen anything.
No, right now, the one that we voted on, there was, right?
No, there was no specific language for the text amendment.
So,
What we voted to do is to not entertain a text amendment to make the change in the zoning law. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back and look at the specific language, but
We
there was
denied the
no-
application. We can deny the application at any possible moment, and we said we were not interested in changing the law as it stood. And I don't see any reason, given the information, and we haven't looked at the hydrogeological study in depth, but I think there are so many issues that cannot be resolved even with the AAF. The fact
Well,
is,
this is
it's
the point.
not appropriate. Do we want him to spend all this money and just to continue to say that's not what we want?
again, who are we to spend his money? Who are we to spend his
have
money?
time. There are resources, and we have a lot of things on our agenda, and this isn't one of our highest priorities. We already talked about all the things that were high priorities to this town resident, and that wasn't one of them. So we can spend our time working on this,
So
or we
now-
can work on getting a highway garage, which is leaking and needs a new site, and we don't have a place to put it. There are a lot of issues in front of the town.
So because we don't have the time, we have to
One of
pick
the
and
resources.
choose of what comes before us.
That's what you do.
That's pretty pathetic. That's
Well,
very
You
pathetic.
want to get things done, you better start focusing on what
Yeah.
you really want for this
That's
town
pretty
and focus
pathetic.
on that.
You could deal with a $90,000 kitchen, and we could have a grant writer that I just signed a voucher for $15,000, $1,500 to write grants, okay? For what? So a community kitchen is more priority than the future of the town?
We're not handling it. We had a report. They have a committee who's working on that. That's their opportunity.
Vicki.
If they want to do it, they can work on it.
It's a joke. That's why this town is where it is right now.
I mean, I
It's a
think
joke.
you have to realize that there was a comprehensive plan adopted by a town board, setting in place a structure for how the board wanted to see the town develop. In accordance with that, there's a zoning law that's implemented that follows the structure of the comprehensive plan
And
as to where you want to see
The
what type of
town
development.
planner
and the
actually
zones.
said,
Mike, you're interrupting.
Okay.
You know,
you're on my dollar.
okay,
The
but
town
Mike,
lawyer,
when other people are, you
The
and
town planner, all right,
Mike, I'm
actually
speaking.
said that this project
You're out of
goes
order,
with the
Mike.
comprehensive
Stop
plan.
interrupting her.
Mike, there
You
are rules of
rude.
conduct that you and the rest of the board adopted
Okay,
2 years ago for people to follow in this meeting when they're commenting.
Okay.
That includes the town.
no,
board.
it's for public
And I
comment.
watch you
It's for
continually,
public comment.
and it applies to the town board.
It applies for public
Well, I
comment.
would ask you to follow the same respect and conduct
Okay,
that you
so
ask
finish
of
what
other
you were
people.
saying.
Well, you constantly interrupt me and people
Okay, well,
in the
finish what
public.
you were saying.
And I was talking about the comprehensive plan and the zoning law that was adopted to implement that and to form specific zones for the zoning and different districts as to what is going to be allowed. So when you're talking about amendment, you have to go back and look at the time that the board put into a comprehensive plan and the zoning law.
Okay,
So it isn't that the town is just disregarding
Okay.
anything in the town. There's been a great deal of time and effort and consideration put into that,
into this project?
into the comprehensive plan
Okay.
and the zoning law.
Are you done? Can I speak now?
I'm finished, Mike.
Okay. Our planner actually said that this project fits within our comprehensive plan.
Well, I would take issue with that.
Okay, but now we have an issue, right? Okay? We have planners, we have lawyers, we have researchers, we have this. There is an issue with this project. Why can't this project go to a discovery phase to straighten out these issues, to make sure that these issues are actually legitimate issues?
Because it's not allowed in our zoning. The zoning is the zoning is the zoning. That's the whole idea, that's the whole reason they were requesting a text
And
amendment to change, to amend the zoning.
Okay, and Vicky brought it up that you got Roxbury Sand and Gravel doing the same exact thing.
No, they're not.
Vicky, didn't you say they were doing compost there?
I don't know what they're doing, actually. I'm
They're
not a-
doing compost
I'm not a,
actually right across the street from Stone Resource also. Someone's dumping wood chips over there and spreading them out and everything else. So, you know, we want to talk about zoning laws. It's, you know, it's a moot point. It's just my whole thing with this project. Like it, don't like it, whatever. We're not giving it a chance to get the proper information so we can make an informed decision. That's all I'm saying. When you need something for your house, you do something for your family, you look at the pros and cons and everything, and then you make an informed decision. We're not letting this man even get the chance to make an informed decision.
Yeah, but to get to that point, we need to change the law.
Yes, and at any time we could revoke it.
No, we can't.
Yes, you can.
We can amend it.
Anytime it could be revoked through the process. It's an email from Dave Everett that we got in August.
The application could be revoked.
The
at any
application
time,
can be
but
revoked, the law
zoning law
cannot.
would already be changed.
You don't revoke law.
So,
You amend law, and you do it through introduction of a local law for an amendment, and have a public hearing. There's a process.
We should put a time limit on how long we want to keep this issue open.
My suggestion is, this man doesn't have to ask our permission to file an application. He could just go ahead and file the application. And if he wants to file the application 500 times, so be it. Let him file the application 500 times. You know, if that's how this board wants to play. This board is sitting up here to be looking out for the better of Amenia. Not just certain people, all right? And everybody has the thing, and everybody has the thing. Just like you have your say, everybody else in the town
That's
has their
enough.
say.
Okay, I'm clearing the room. Everyone out. Everyone who was just shouting has to leave.
You're in your pen.
Yeah, that's what it is. Keep on talking.
You need your pen.
Yeah, keep on talking. Shows how much you know.
Well, I think there's been enough discussion on this. The use and occupancy permit for Wasaik Trail to the Train resolution. Where are we, 28? Nancy?
27.
27. Resolution to authorize town supervisor to execute New York State Department of Transportation permit for use of state-owned property for rail, train, and appurtenances. A regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia held at the Amenia Town Hall on the 19th day of May 2016 at 7 p.m. Town Supervisor Victoria Perotti called the meeting to order. And
I'll second it.
make that motion, seconded by Vicki Doyle, and introduce the following resolution to wit. Whereas the town of Amenia has been awarded a grant in the amount of $480,000 from the New York State Department of Transportation under the Federal Transportation Enhancements Program for a project involving the extension of the Harlem Valley Rail Trail from the Metro North Railroad Wasaik Station southerly along the easterly side of Route 22 into Wasaik, whereas said project will require construction work utilizing property of New York State, whereas the state of New York has issued a highway right-of-way permit account number 82484, for the use of said state-owned property on the east side of Route 22, south of the Metro North Railroad Wasaik Station driveway under project Amenia Wasaik, SH 537. Now therefore be it resolved that based on the foregoing and after due deliberation, the town board hereby authorizes Town Supervisor Victoria Perotti to execute the acceptance of said highway right-of-way permit on behalf of the town board. The foregoing resolution was voted on with all councilmen, councilmen voting as follows.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Aye.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. A resolution to schedule a public hearing on proposed local law number 13 to amend zoning maps and correct description of soil mining overlay district. And it's 28. Resolution scheduling a public hearing regarding the adoption of local law number 1 of 2016 entitled A Local Law Amending the Zoning Maps of the Town of Amenia and Correcting the Meets and Bounds Description of the Soil Mining Overlay Zoning District, and authorizing publication and posting of notice of public hearing. Whereas on March 17, 2016, by resolution number 13 of 2016, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia introduced local law number 1 of 2016 entitled A Local Law Amending the Zoning Maps of the Town of Amenia and Correcting the Meets and Bounds Description of the Soil Mining Overlay Zoning District. Whereas pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law on March 21, 2016, the Town Clerk of the Town of Amenia gave written notice to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development of the Town Board's intention to adopt said local law number 1 of 2016. And whereas on March 21st, 2016, the town clerk gave written notice to the Town of Amenia Planning Board of the Town Board's intention to adopt said local law number 1 of 2016. Whereas the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development provided a response pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 239, dated April 14, 2016, a copy of which is annexed hereto, advising the proposed zoning amendment, which is the subject of proposed local law number 1 of 2016 as a matter of local concern, whereas the Town of Amenia Planning Board has not submitted any comments on proposed local law number 1 of 2016 within the time allowed by law. Now therefore, the Town Board, in regular session duly convened, does hereby resolve as follows, that a public hearing on the proposed adoption of local law number 1 of 2016, a local law amending the zoning maps of the town of Amenia and correcting the meets and bounds description of the soil mining overlay zoning district shall be held on June 2nd. Would that be enough time?
June 2nd.
Yeah.
The first Thursday, is our next town board meeting.
Yes. That's at 2016 at 7 p.m. at the Town of Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York. 2, the town clerk is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to A, immediately publish a legal notice as to said public hearing in the Millerton News, the official newspaper of the Town of Amenia, and post a copy thereof in the town clerk's official signboard, both in the form annexed hereto. The resolution shall take effect immediately. Can I make that resolution? A second. You second?
I second
Okay, roll, please.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Aye.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crowley?
Yes. Now, the only thing I have for other matters, I received email from a gentleman who wants to plant a garden at Hudson Healthcare, and he wanted a letter from me supporting this objective, so I just wanted to get permission from the town board to do a letter of support for the garden at Hudson Healthcare. I guess he has a DEC approval.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Victoria Perotti, our supervisor, to write a letter in support of the application of a garden at the medical center, health center.
There a second?
Second.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Aye.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crowley?
Yes. Public comment? Sharon?
Sharon Kroger. In regard to Mr. Haggerty's report about mentioning Hudson Valley Housing, I think it's particularly important when you're working with a group like that to look closely at the language, because very often embedded in there is some kind of requirement that there be a certain number of low incomes or some proportion. Remember that Amenia has a higher percentage of affordable housing than any other town in the state, and that was told to us by the population, the specialist in population that came from Poughkeepsie while the comprehensive plan was being written. And you do not want something that's going to require that in return for fixing that we have to take a higher and higher percentage of low income, because we have a very, very high percentage as things are. Number 2, in regard to the kitchen, I do want to say that we shouldn't be just thinking about this kitchen as though it were an amenity of some kind. This is an economic development project which is regional, and that means that other towns will be happy to be cooperating in it, if I understand what I'm reading in the newspaper, and it should be given a great deal of respect. It's not something that should be downgraded or talked about lightly as though it was unimportant. Thirdly, I'm going to just suggest that I know it's very difficult to run meetings of this kind, and I know it's not easy for the board. But I would suggest that life would be easier if you were to specify in advance that someone who's making a proposal, give him or her a certain number of minutes and then make them stay within it. And then if you allow discussion from the floor, which you don't have to allow, but if you allow it, you could limit everybody to 3 minutes. and absolutely stop anyone from interrupting. And that would be great, because then the rest of us wouldn't get into it and say, get order, get order, get order. I happened to take the DVD from the meeting that the 4-to-1 decision took place. I reviewed it again. I wanted to see just what was happening and review it. And I want to make 2 comments about that. First of all, after the 4-to-1 vote took place, it was a total spectacle for Mike DeLango to stand up and harangue and harangue and harangue for as long as he did. And that was an inappropriate behavior that should not have been allowed, and I hope it never happens again. The second thing that I noticed was that a particular accusation took place. That is, you, Mike, accused the town supervisor of responding to the people in the audience, caring about what they were saying, as though there was something wrong about that. Now, the job of the town board elected is to be worrying about the quality of life in a town and what people care about. So you're doing your duty when you listen to them. And I don't think you should have minimized the importance of that in any way.
All right, well, you watched the DVD.
Now I'm finished.
What I did say was they were threatening not to re-elect us if we didn't vote the way that they wanted it voted.
That's what America is all about.
Okay, well, that's fine. All right? We're here. We're doing to the best of our ability. For someone to threaten me and say you're not going to re-elect me because of a view that I have?
They should be saying that all the time to you.
Which is fine.
That is what they're saying.
So my opinion's not worth anything?
Sharon.
That's not.
Sharon. Town board comments?
Do you want to talk about our meeting on earlier this week?
Sure.
Okay.
So when was that, Vicki? Last Thursday?
Seems like a million years ago. I think it was on a Thursday.
Vicki and I met with some members from the Wassaic project and 2 representatives from Cosmo Design Factory who were tasked with a design project that the Wassaic project had applied for a grant for and had won. And this was, the grant was to explore alternate trailhead designs for the rail trail on the Wassaic side of things. And so Cosmo put together a very thoughtful and nice design. We did make it clear that it was paramount that this project proceed and not sort of be derailed or by any excessive changes in design or anything that would affect the budget tremendously. But one of the things that we thought might be a good next step, and Victoria, maybe you could give us some advice on this, was working with WSP cells to identify any opportunity. So, for example, the chain link fence that's mandated by Metro North to be put in. If there's a way to do that in a way that can accommodate this, some of the design elements that they envision later on, if there's funding found, or even just a general feasibility study of the types of things that they've proposed would be tremendously helpful. Not a feasibility study, but just a check with WSP cells to review this. We thought that would be a good next step.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize WSP cells to take a look at the design recommendations and get back to us as to the feasibility or...
Can we table that until, we just got this, after the meeting started today. Can we table it until the rest of the board has a chance to review that?
I would say that. The only consideration that I had was whether or not we're holding up WSP cells, because then it would be into June 2nd is our next meeting.
Yeah, all we want to do is just let them look at it.
How much is that going to cost us?
I would suggest that we, ask them if they could just look at it for gratis, since we have paid a lot of money to them, and it really won't take them that long for hopefully to look at it and say, oh no, we can't extend we can't do that, or we can't do that. I would ask them to do it for free, personally. I think it's in good faith, and we paid a lot of money, and it shouldn't take them but a minute to take a look at.
Yeah,
We
I
spent
don't-
$92,000, I mean, how much have we spent to these guys? They can probably take a look at it.
Well, since
since
I
this is
haven't
a
seen
grant.
it, I would agree only if it's free.
On the contingency that it's free, I would amend my motion to include the fact that they would give us some free advice as to what the next step might be and what the feasibility would be for incorporating these proposed design elements. I think if we get into also changing the design, then we go back to the design people, and Wasai project just becomes more complicated. And I think time is of the essence is my concern, because I think we're 90% there approved, so I think as soon as we get this, we
Yeah,
should
we're
be.
in detail design.
Yeah, we got to get it.
Just to maybe provide, well, I'm sorry, you made a motion. I'll second that motion.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Aye.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rode?
Yes.
And I'll just mention that I did email what I got from the design, Cosmo Designs, is that what it's called? To the rest of the board, and then I'll forward that same onto our WSB cells and find out if they will do it for free.
Okay. Is there any other town board comment?
The Amenia Fire Company is postponing the 5K race that they were doing on June 4th until a later date. They wanted me to just thank everybody who helped out and offered their support. The donated sponsorships will be returned with much thanks. Thank you, Amenia Fire Company. Then, just like everybody has an opinion, so do I. Just because I sit up here on this board doesn't mean I have to sit here and take everybody's what they want to say to me and I can't say anything back. I'm sorry sometimes if people don't like the way I phrase my words or how I raise my voice or anything like that. But unfortunately, I don't like some of the comments that I hear. And I don't like some of the way that people conduct themselves. And I have to deal with it most of the time. So unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with me. And that's what it comes down to. I'm a very passionate person. I believe in this town. I love this town. And I don't honestly think it's going the right way right now. And everybody has been dealing with this town for the last 15 or 20 years the way it is. I'm sorry. And through my eyes, it hasn't gotten much better. So.
I'd like to welcome Jill Winsby Fine, who was hired to be our dance instructor for the fall, and she's new and full of exciting ideas, and we will be drafting together a flyer with more information for her ideas for her 10-week program that will begin roughly September 15th and run through early to mid-December. And it will be free and open to the students in the Weebatuck School District, homeschooled, private schooled, Weebatuck school kids. We welcome them all to come and enjoy the program. It will probably be held on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to, noon or something like that. It has been 10 to 2, but we're going to work out those details and provide those details to you as soon as we get the program finalized. I also, we got the fountain up and working, and we did have to hire John Licurdo to fix the outlet. Was a broken wire, which is clearly fixed. So thank you, John. And I noticed when I was doing the vouchers also that there was a electrical issue at the former tennis courts, now the basketball courts, and I noticed that John Licurdo had provided a staff member for free. Labor was free. So I want to thank John Licurdo for providing that, and the fellow, whoever it was, for donating his time. I don't know who all's responsible, but I just saw no charge for the labor that day. So they must have solved outage?
Yeah, they needed someone to,
They need a bucket truck, I
bucket
know
truck.
that. So the cost to the town of Amenia was very nominal, and I think that's a really wonderful way of, you know, making things work in Amenia. I'm glad that we finalized the zoning map. We just have to go through the public hearing, and then we can tell the county that we're a go. Yeah, okay. That's all I have.
I just wanted to remind everybody that the Wassaic Fire Company, Ladies Auxiliary, is having a breakfast and bake sale on Sunday, the 22nd, from 8 to 11 at the Wassaic Firehouse. Adults $8, seniors $7, children $5. Sorry, it was a little too small. So pancakes, French toast, cookies,
What day is that
cupcakes.
again?
Sunday.
Sunday.
This Sunday.
Sunday.
Okay.
And the Lions Club is having the fishing derby on Saturday, right? Saturday? So that's a free event, so if you have time, make your way over to the Ralph Vinciarello Memorial Fishing Derby, and it's a ton of fun for your kids. Next year you can go.
All right.
And that was it. That was all I had.
I had one more thing I forgot. There's signups for Babe Ruth, which is the 13 to 16-year-olds, and Connie Mack, 17 to 19-year-olds, at the Amenia Ball Field on May 21st, May 28th, and June 4th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can also contact Christine Ford for more information. Her number is 845-705-7127. Thank you, Christine.
and planting day?
And planting day is May 28th from 10 to noon at Fountain Square. And if you'd like to come and help, I'm sure we can find plenty to do. We'll be planting the planters and the in-ground gardens on that Saturday.
I'd also like to mention that Smithfield Church is having an open house this Saturday from 10 to 12 and 1 to 3. They're doing the dedication of the church. It's one of the oldest churches in the town of Amenia. They has just replaced a lot of the columns, and it would be a really good event for you to see the beautiful work that's been done restoring the church. The 21st on Saturday. Does anyone have anything else? Have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I make a motion to
And
adjourn.
I'll second it.
Councilman Delango?
Yes.
Councilman Gutierrez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hitzelberger?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Brody?
Yes.